And we're live. Welcome to the Band of Gamers Podcast, episode number 61. My name is Greylock3491, and with me this week is DBQ Hams
I am back finally. Thanks, guys. It's good to be here with you.
and Zeus Adamus
I think we're all back finally.
Yeah, right?
and Osiris Prime. No, he's not here yet. I heard he was setting up Master Chief because he knows I like to see the Master Chief there showing support, gonna have a little representation. But hopefully he'll join us. Haven't heard from Solo or Stone, so they must be really, really busy. But in any case, we're going to go ahead and get started. And, I realized today that Elite Dangerous is turning into my Skyrim.
So there's glitches and good mods out there, and
Game save deleting bugs.
that's right. Oh,
What?
do they all have clean faces? Is that the... No, tell us the real story. Why is this your Skyrim?
I didn't know about any of the stuff you guys just said. I never had an issue with my Skyrim on the Xbox. I'm finding that if I have an hour to play here or there, not multiplayer, just solo, I'm enjoying it. I just jump on, I fly around, click stuff, shoot bad guys, and it's relaxing. It is really relaxing and enjoyable until you have to, self-destruct your ship, which is fun too. But yeah, I actually started doing some bounty hunting because there was a big bounty hunting community goal this week, and that was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot too. And I learned a lot from my fellow commanders, Bullet and Andre/Wonderboy and Spiral, and we got a couple of new commanders joining us, Jetty and Macebite have also joined in, and of course I've also flown with Downriver Rat. Have not flown with Mike RL yet, but hopefully sometime. I see him on all the time. I never get to fly with him, or Red Eyes. Haven't been able to fly with Red Eyes yet. But yeah, so I really just it's kind of peaceful, and it's something that just getting on and kind of like Skyrim. Remember Skyrim when you were walking between towns and you could always fast travel, but there was that peacefulness of just enjoying the scenery and going on your way and chance encounters and whatnot. So that's it. That's all really I've been playing. That's worth mentioning. How about you, DB? What have you been playing?
So I'm going to go back and talk about Elite, or at least ask a couple questions. So on the community bounties, so does it, is it like an XP goal for the weekend, or like a treasure boost? Like if the community hits a certain goal, everybody gets extra loot or credits?
Yes. So the way it works is there's several tiers. I don't know if there's 7 or 9 tiers, but basically I went in and I collected about $200,000 worth of bounties, and I was in the lower quartile. I had just broke the lower quartile, but because so many people have joined in on the community goal, what should have been a $200,000 payout turned out to be a $4 million payout. So now I have $4 million cash, which is good because some of the ships in the game are the one I want is 150 million. And it takes a long time to make that. I mean, a lot of the missions are 10 grand a piece. So unless you're finding big missions, 150 million can take a long time to get to. So yeah, it's I know some of the guys made 10, 15 million off of it because they had more time to collect the bounties. And so the way the bounties work is you go to an area where you know there's going to be bad guys, and when they turn up, you take them out.
Cool.
And there's a lot more to that, but yeah. So that's my story.
So do I have the correct understanding that so this Elite Dangerous does not have crossplay with PC? Is that correct?
No, that's a question that comes up a lot actually.
Right.
But it predates that. It predates that announcement by I think it was out on the PC in late 14 and out on Xbox late 15.
Right.
So
Right.
really, really pretty. And a lot of people are asking that about Ark, right? The game Prime loves, right? Ark Survival, I think it is. In any case, a lot of people ask that on Steam. Hey, do I get a free Xbox copy now? No. So
Great. Well, yeah, I guess the way it sounds, and I'll say this when Zeus is drinking and he can't say anything, but it sounds almost like an MMO. I mean, it sounds like, you're jumping in, you're exploring, you're looking for it in the social aspects of, of not necessarily a MMO like a raid, but just something to get in, play a little bit, and socialize with somebody. So that's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has overwhelmed your gameplay in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I would say well, maybe the last 3 months, I would say that even if you're not anywhere near your friends, you can still be in a private group. Okay, so you may be hundreds of thousands of light years away, but you still can play in a private group. And not that you can interact with each other, but you can see each other on the star map where you're located. And we just fire up the Xbox party. It's when you were in Skyrim, a lot of people would have the Xbox parties and talk while they played. You were never going to meet each other, and that's the problem with No Man's Sky, right? You're never going to meet anybody. So, and with Elite Dangerous, you've probably seen on the website and on the CAG site that we have several of meetups and pictures where people had brought all the ships together. We took pictures, and it supports 16-player multiplayer, which is very cool. So you could actually get 16 players all together and to take on a capital ship, But yeah, good stuff.
Cool. Neat.
Yeah, I'll likely be joining you guys sometime before the year's out, since pretty much there's nothing else coming out worth playing this holiday season.
Oh, that sounds like a topic. Oh, there's a gauntlet thrown down. It is the middle of October and there's nothing else. So I will say that there is a game coming out this week, and I have been playing it with early access, with EA Access, with Battlefield 1. Played the beta, really enjoyed it, loved the setting. It got me kind of reading a little bit more about World War I history and listening to some audiobooks on that, and that's been really enjoyable.
So before you go further, let me just ask you straight up. Is this the beach landing at Normandy from Call of Duty?
Not from Medal of Honor, right? Way back, Medal of Honor PC.
I thought they both did. I thought they both did it because I thought like that was that era where like everybody did the Normandy.
Which one was better? For me, I don't know what it is. I kind of think it was Medal of Honor. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Call of Duty did it in the version that first came out on PC.
In the very first Call of Duty.
Right.
Yeah. But I think Medal of Honor did it first. And so the emotional impact of that, maybe, that idea of storming the beach, getting up into one of the gun turrets, it's so I don't know that it has that type of kind of dense intensity.
And I'm also asking: does it evoke that emotion, that sense of emotion we all had from going through that landing?
So I haven't played enough of the single player, but I will say that, and maybe since Prime joined us, he might be able to. Maybe if he closes his window, might be able to say the single player starts off in what I tweeted out was probably the most tense first-person single-player environment that I've had for a long time. Probably back to original Modern Warfare of Call of Duty 4. Right.
So more tense than storming the Kremlin in Russia at the end of Call of Duty?
Oh no, I'll go back. I mean, that goes back further, right?
Okay.
So I'm thinking timeline-wise, that totally is right. The whole where you're picking up guns and
right. You start off unarmed.
Yeah, that very much is classic, but it kind of invokes this because the opening scene of the story mode, it does a really nice job of not kind of glorifying war. I'm sure that eventually it does because it's a game still. But what you end up doing is you jump from player to player as you die. That even if you're trying to survive, you eventually die, and it moves you to another person. And it, I had this instance where I found myself hiding, trying to survive, and the scripting of the game wouldn't go any further because it's a game, and I needed to be able to, either I tried to kill an enemy, but you know, the game needed me to die to be able to move the narrative and the tutorial forward. So, but it really was this kind of tense moment of feeling that kind of the futility uh, of a World War I battle, where there were so many bodies just thrown against the meat grinder. Very much kind of like that the Russia campaign in the original Call of Duty. So I mean, I'm enjoying that. You know, there's a lot of people that have been out. The reviews just came out today that talking about, you know, the single player. You know, it jumps between 5 different narratives. Haven't played a whole lot, but I've played more of the multiplayer modes. And the multiplayer modes, it's Battlefield, right? So there's Conquest and there's Rush and there's some of those. There we go. Thank you, Gray. Yep. It's even the box art has it coming right down on the beach. But the multiplayer mode that I was really interested in, and I think does something a little bit different. It's kind of a combination of Conquest and Rush, is their operations mode. It actually plays out, Gray, it plays out very much like the assault mode, like Walker Assault in Star Wars Battlefront, right? Like you're trying to control a couple points, you're pushing it back, you're moving, you know, kind of zones back on a map. But the neat thing that it does is I was commenting to World Voyager when we were playing this weekend, it's got more story in that operations mode than all of Star Wars Battlefront did, right? It does a little narrative cutscene at the beginning to give you kind of the historic context for the battle that you're reenacting, and gives you some perspective, talks about that, even gives you kind of like a strategy about how the battle happened in terms of moving across different zones. And you control one spot, you know, and if you do, and eventually it's like almost like a 3 phases that you'll move to a different geographic location. So like there was one on the Suez Canal trying to control, or either as the Ottoman Empire holding back the Britons, the British, or the British trying to take control over the Suez Canal. And so it provides this kind of historic context. And so I guess after playing a lot of modern shooters, of playing futuristic shooters, it's kind of refreshing to go back to something that is historic, that is grounded in some, you know, there is this sense of somebody went through something similar. And so in terms of the gunplay, I haven't played it enough to talk about it as a game, but as an experience, I've enjoyed it. But I think, Prime, you have not enjoyed it nearly as much.
Well, I've just had some issues. So I don't have EA Access as a normal service. I just got a month code, I think about a month and a half ago, and I was waiting until Battlefield was coming out, you know, to put it in. I got it for just being, you know, an Xbox Live loyal customer. So
sure,
it was cool.
Nice. Yeah.
So I did that. Yeah, very nice. I also had to get some Gears stuff too, which I don't know, I'll probably give out to somebody at some point. But so I did it last week because I knew Battlefield was coming out for over the weekend. And so when you start up, it gives you that screen where it says play trial, or I think it says go to store to pre-order or something like that. But for some reason, that screen pops up like every few minutes, or like 5-10 minutes sometimes. I don't know if you get that or not.
Yep. So in the EA Access trial, that you get a purchase the game, or you have X number of hours left on your trial. It happens every 5 minutes, and there's Reddit threads about it. There's a way to go back and kind of clear out your profile.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's intentional, as like, hey, buy the game, or if it's some type of programming. You know, it's a glitch in there somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, it does. It totally breaks up the experience.
Yeah.
So that's a service you're paying for, right?
So the EA Access is a $30 a year service that, in theory, was supposed to give you 10 hours for EA games before they came out, and things added to the vault that are free games. Where you know, in November, Star Wars Battlefront becomes a free game. So. Yeah, so I mean, I think for me it's been useful. You get a discount, you get 10% discount on digital sales, but the frustration of it has been not only, I think, what Prime's talking about in terms of trying to upsell you on it every 5 minutes, which is the first time it's done that, but also the fact that things like Titanfall 2 are not going to have a EA Access trial. And so, I'm paid up on EA Access till sometime in the middle of 2017, but it'll be interesting to see, I think, if it is something that's still worth value. But again, it's excuse me, $30 a year. You're getting free games on a regular basis. If you're a sports game player of any sport, you get the previous edition. So I'm not expecting a whole lot for my $30 in terms of that. So maybe my expectations are not nearly as high as somebody who is maybe holding on to a code to be able to play the game. So did you get a chance to actually play it, Prime? What did you think of the gameplay?
Yeah, I mean, as far as gameplay, I mean, I'm still loving the game. Like I said, after I played the beta, I kind of switched my thinking. It was more of I was going to get Titanfall, first thing, and then kind of wait on Battlefield. But I actually had switched around, and I'll talk about this again later because I've switched again. But I pre-ordered Battlefield, and yeah, I'm loving the game so far. The maps are pretty cool. There's one map, I can't remember what the name is right now, but it's kind of a really small map. It only has like 3 points when you're doing conquest. I don't remember if you remember what the name of that is. It's kind of like a desert town, but that one's kind of annoying just because it's so small. And if one side has two conquest points, then you pretty much won the map because it's kind of hard for the other team to take those over. I guess unless you got like everybody on your squad, you know what you're doing, and you're constantly communicating or something like that. But if you're just playing randoms like I usually do, it's kind of a pain in the butt to go through that. But otherwise, yeah. Unfortunately, I've only been able to play Conquest so far. I didn't get to play any of the other modes yet, but I'm loving it. And like I said last time, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just because it's going back in time, maybe, and it's just different weapons. It's not just future weapons or even modern weapons. It's something totally different. You jump in a tank and you got like this much of room to look around. It's very slim field of view of vision. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm really liking it so far. So hopefully, once I get the whole product, I'm not getting that stupid pop-up every once in a while. But so my question is, on that pop-up, do you get that too when you're playing during your gameplay? Because that's what I'm getting actually when I'm playing the game, is that thing pops up.
Yeah, I get it on the gameplay, but I haven't pre-ordered yet. So I would assume that if I would have pre-ordered through the Xbox Store, it goes away.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm still getting it. No, playing over the weekend, you could tell people who were standing in one spot and not doing anything.
Yeah,
and then
they got the pop-up.
Through them. Yeah. So, it's not a perfect environment, but again, it's designed to give us a taste of if this is something worth buying. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, but I mean, trying to do it when you're actually trying to play the game, if it's just during the, the menu screen, like even if it came up like every 30 seconds, I wouldn't even care. But when you're trying to play the game, it's like, come on, how are you gonna, someone might be using that, to figure out if they're gonna buy it or not. And if they keep getting that pop up, they're just gonna get frustrated and be like, you know what, screw it, I'll buy something else. So I just thought it was kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
eventually.
Yeah, I had situations where I had a guy dead to rights in a close combat, and I froze up, and when I could access it again, I was gone, or he was gone, right? And so.
So just to put it in perspective, this is a game by DICE.
The servers work, so
yeah, they do.
It's a game by DICE being hosted by the company that brought us Origin in its original format.
Or the company that brought us SimCity?
Sims, right.
Yeah. And Battlefield 4 launch. So,
yep.
I think in some ways the nice thing about the rollout for EA Access players is that it gives them a chance to kind of push against their servers before everything happens. It's the full game, it's the full build, it's not another beta. So I guess I'm considering the fact that, and it's been really stable. I haven't had, other than the getting, the freeze up to buy the game, I haven't been kicked out or dropped out. Things have been a little slow loading in some matchmaking, but otherwise the server aspect has been pretty solid.
Hey, while we're on this topic, I just want to throw out, this was one of my news stories, but I was surprised. Now, you guys are giving your opinions on it. I was surprised that both GameSpot and Polygon gave it a 9 out of 10. And GameSpot's been really tough on games lately.
So I would say, I mean, I think, and I've read Polygon's review, and I've read pieces of GameSpot's review. I've read the Forbes review. There's been another of others out there. I think today was the embargo, and so they're in the 40. They're in the 8 to 9s across the board. The single player, I think, people have been giving it good marks because it does something different rather than having just one hero that suddenly is in all kinds of battles. And the nice thing about the single player, because it also jumps around to different narratives, you also end up playing on different sides of the war. So it's not taking it, only the ally side or only the American side. And so I think that is a unique piece there. The graphics are beautiful. I mean, it's DICE, and Star Wars Battlefront looked really solid. It looked beautiful, and now we're in the Sinai Desert versus the Tatooine Desert, and so they've got dirt down. And so I think there's that. I don't know that the multiplayer does anything different other than the operations mode. Otherwise it's still just Battlefield. But I think the fact that it feels fresh because it's old.
Now, let me ask you this. To me, it looked like it was a combination of Call of Duty and Battlefield 1942. I mean, it looked like it was raw first-person mechanics, not grappling, jumping, scaling, parkouring. I mean, you guys have played it. Does it feel like a throwback to core, rock, paper, scissors type of FPS gameplay?
Yeah, I'll say go ahead and hold back up that Medal of Honor game, right? I mean, it feels very much like you're back to, there are some automatic guns, but playing as a medic, you have a bolt action, and so there's been times when I've had somebody where I didn't hit a headshot, and so I needed to finish them out, and I'm sitting there backing up a stairs trying to reload my bolt action, and there's not, your jumps aren't super high, your movement is what a human could accomplish. There's no exoskeleton. There's even your HUD is different in terms of the radar is not as intense as it is in a modern shooter, and even spotting. And this was the same with the beta, where you have to be, spotting is not nearly as generous as it was in Battlefield 4 or Battlefield Hardline, where you get close to somebody and you can tap the button and you'll spot them. You have to be really, on them for a little bit or on them long enough to get it. It's not just kind of moving back and forth across the street to spot. So there are some throwbacks there, and so it does feel, it feels like a period piece.
Yeah, you definitely if it's something like waist high, you're gonna actually have to climb over it. It's not just like an automatic jump. So you see the guy grabbing onto it and kind of flipping over it. So instead of just like automatically just jumping over it and just keep running. So it's definitely definitely a lot better as far as like the movement, more realistic, I guess. Some people might frown upon that. They don't like that, but it is what it is, I guess. And yes, like you said, the spotting is it's a lot better than the beta though too, because it kind of didn't work at all sometimes in the beta, but now it's actually, you can at least spot some people. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think the movement's pretty slow. I wouldn't say it's, there's a lot of mantling over things or crouching behind cover like the other game I was playing, where I played a little bit of Gears of War 4. But I know, Zeus, you spent some more time with that. So how was, on Xbox, it looks beautiful. So you've got a nice big rig. How does it look for you?
It looks really good. I was really happy with the performance that I'm seeing out of it. So I don't know much else to say about it. The first thing I did was ran the benchmark, which like I mentioned in the pre-show, came in just right around or just under 60 frames per second. It is not as high as some other benchmark scores, or it's not as high as the NVIDIA baseline benchmark scores for a rig that's equivalent to mine. I may be memory limited in terms of RAM or something else may be going on, but 60 frames per second is plenty. But yeah, I've enjoyed playing Gears of War 4. It's unfortunately for me, it's right now it's in the same kind of pocket that the Division was. We'll see if I come out of it, but the Division I famously like booted up and played like the one time, and I haven't played it since, just because of the size of my backlog. So I am not. I enjoy it, and I definitely want to get back to it. It is not like Forza Horizon 3 is for me, where like I don't care what backlog roulette says. Like I'm gonna make time to go back and play that game. But yeah, it was pretty fun. What's been more interesting for me, although unfortunately may not be that interesting for our listeners, is I actually in the last week I've spent a lot of time playing Destiny on the PS4.
What?
Yeah, right, exactly. And I was never negative about Destiny. I just wasn't like enthralled with it. But I've always said mechanically, I think it nails the first person shooter mechanics. It's to me, it's the analog of the original Halo at that point in time, right? Where Halo was just the first shooter to get controls right on a console. And it feels like that, in this generation for Destiny. I guess I came at Destiny a different way this time. Now I just went in and kind of casually decided to start playing Strikes, which I just hadn't really done when I was playing it the first time, trying to get through the first player campaign. And I had a blast playing Strikes because obviously it's probably all you guys know who have played much more Destiny than I have. You level quickly. You can play 2 to 4 strikes in a night and level up almost a level per strike. I have a friend of mine who used to work with me at a website I used to be at who I reconnected with and played some with me. So I think it's also, and this kind of tends to happen on servers when the game is older, and you get kind of some of the riffraff to go away. Cooler people are left behind on the server, right? So I cannot remember the guy's name. It was Doc something or other, but I played a strike this week with a guy named Doc, and and it was the strike against the tank who's up on the concrete stand or whatever, right outside an entrance to it's like the Devil's Lair or something like that, it's like the first tank that you encounter in the game in the strikes, and that guy and there's a big open field right in front of the tank at a lower level, and there are all sorts of places to get up high and kind of hide and stuff, but this guy, it was just the two of us, so and we got together in a weird way, right? Because I went into the strike with 2 other players. Those guys disappeared. They were going off the beaten paths, either side of whatever direction the arrow was pointing you to go to do the strike. Apparently, you can go off the path and stir up and just run into all sorts of platoons of enemies and just really grind. And that's what they were doing. But I guess they were probably in a party chat. So I would go 2 encounters ahead in the strike, and then I would double back and find them, and they'd be fighting something, and then we would kill those guys, and then they would stand around not doing anything. So they were probably sorting equipment and probably talking. So eventually it was close to 2 a.m. in the morning, and I just said, I'm just going to go ahead and do the strike, and if I get killed trying to do it by myself, then... So I ran into this guy, same thing, I came around a corner, he's involved in a skirmish, I jumped in and helped him out. He looked at me because I didn't have him on comms. We did the Destiny wave at each other, and then the 2 of us took off right to finish this strike. And are you guys still able to hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I grabbed my cord there. So we got to this point where we encountered the tank, and I would get killed, and I would be on the side. And if I could have talked to him, I would have said, "Look, dude, there's too much resistance over here. Just let me bleed out, and I'll respawn." And he would come bounding across this entire open field of fire. Right, revive me, sometimes getting killed himself. I would turn around and revive him. And we just had this amazing camaraderie just spring up out of nowhere. we went kind of up onto the concrete platform behind cover to attack the tank, and he eventually, like, apparently the tank traversing its guns is just slow enough where he was able to bound bunny hop across the concrete platform, and the guns never traversed fast enough to keep up with him, and so he basically drew the thing's fire, right, so I could take shots at the thing to try and bring it down. So it was an enjoyable gaming session. So and it actually I got not quite full blown addicted, but I definitely got to the point where I was like, I think I just want to play Destiny for the rest of the week, and I put in like 4 game sessions last week playing Destiny a couple times until the wee hours of the morning. So,
well, I was going to ask you too. I mean, one of the things that I found in Destiny doing strikes is that the multiplayer, now typically not on comms, that the multiplayer, the people who would join you 14 out of 15 times were awesome. It would bend over backwards to revive you, even risking getting blown up. And I've never had a game, and this was close to launch. I've never had a game where the camaraderie was there. And I think a big part of it was there was no comms. And so, you know, the little kids who wanted to complain and scream and yell at people, they had nothing to do because nobody was listening. And so you just ended up with a higher quality. So that has always been my experience doing strikes with randoms. Again, 14 out of 15 times, you just get great people that are just great to work with. And DB, is that your same experience with the strikes?
Yeah, I think both strikes and in the patrol, you know, as a public event happens, you know, I think overall that's been some of my favorite Destiny experiences. I've been just kind of randomly joining in with somebody, or being the person who I know that I'm over leveled for this area, but here's somebody who needs some help. You know, it goes right back to, you know, as Gray was describing the fun of Elite Dangerous and kind of talking about the social experience. That's what Destiny's been for me. You know, it's fine as a single player game because the mechanics are so sound, but really the benefit is just either jumping in with randoms or kind of moving through and grabbing friends that I've made through Destiny over the last 2 years and jumping in and just playing, because it doesn't have to be super challenging to be fun, and there's lots of ways to do that. So I'm glad you had a good experience, and I'm glad to know that, you know, it holds up. I think that's the nice thing about a good co-op experience, is that it can hold up no matter what. It's about the people playing it and not about the mechanics as much.
Right. So with this, I have tons more I could say about Destiny, but I think we should be getting on the news here pretty soon. I will probably, because there's a dearth of things remaining to come out this holiday season, which we'll talk about later. I probably will go ahead and plunk down for some of the DLC, mainly just to get more strikes in my strike list.
So are you just playing? I know. Are you playing vanilla? I mean,
yeah, I'm playing vanilla. I've never done
any okay.
So and which is fine because I'm not level 40 yet. So
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, and even buying one of the package collections now, they've remixed some of the year 1 DLC so that it fits better narratively together. So.
Right.
Yep.
So Forza Horizon 3 plays fine. I mentioned in the pre-show that even on my rig with 2 GeForce GTX 1070s, rigged in SLI, and setting it to target 60 frames per second. I do see a dip I miss a couple frames, like around the 40th frame or so. So I had a bad experience trying to play it on lower end hardware. So I think the game launched without being fully optimized for the different hardware sets. And I can understand that. I mean, drivers were probably moving around on them. Obviously, if you have GeForce Experience, they drop drivers like at the last minute, like the day the game is launching, to try and even some things out. So, but it's been fine. So I've enjoyed Gears of War. My only thing about Gears of War, it may be because I'm playing on a PC, and like I feel like my game portal, my view is a lot more pulled back and a lot wider because of the higher resolution. It doesn't feel as visceral as the original Gears of War did. You know, pulling your chainsaw just doesn't have that same feeling. It may be because, and I haven't really checked. Maybe I'm not getting. I'm pretty sure I'm getting force feedback into my controller because I was playing with the. I played with the Xbox 360 controller. Of course, Xbox One controllers are enabled for that game. But I guess that's my only thing. I loved the story and the mechanics, and it took me a few minutes. I think I did do a first boot episode on my YouTube channel. And if you watch that, you can hear me kind of spending like the first 5 minutes because I haven't played a Gears game since like maybe one, maybe I played two just for multiplayer. So you can hear me like for like the first 5 minutes, kind of putting the old sweater on, right, trying to remember all the controls. And then after about 5 minutes, it kind of clicked, right? Like I said, like an old sweater or a pair of pajamas or something. But I definitely struggled through that, especially I could not remember how to roadie run, but eventually figured that out. So
You and me both. Yep, I was pushing buttons and then had to wait for the prompt. But
right,
yeah, I mean it's a Gears game. I had played the remaster last fall, which was the first time I had played Gears, and so it doesn't feel drastically different because I had just played it within the year,
right.
but it's really sound. I mean, considering it's a different developer, that they've set themselves up well.
Yeah, I did like the story and the narrative. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. So, Gray, I will give it back over to you to send us on the news. We are at about 36 minutes into the show.
Thank you. I just wanted to hit Prime because I don't know if we got through your playlist.
No, I'll the only other game I had was Elite Dangerous, so I could talk about that again later, next show.
Well, I was just curious. Did you any new milestones in Elite before we move on? I haven't seen you this week. I don't think we bumped into each other online this week. So
no, not the past week. No. I got the new ship that it's a fighting ship now that I've upgraded, and I still have the old hauler, but that's like in another quadrant now, which is kind of a pain in the butt when you kind of have to actually physically fly back to the the system to get your other ships. I wish you could just swap them at a station, but I guess realism. But yeah, I just done that. I'm starting to do the community missions more, obviously, because I saw your post on that. So that's helped a lot. That was one of the reasons I was able to upgrade. So you get a lot of money off of that. They're just doing bounties and stuff too. You get a good amount of credits. So yeah, other than that, shout out to Bullet. Let's see, who did I play with? Bullet, Spiral, and Jetty. There might have been somebody else in there. I've been playing with them this past week, so it's been really fun. They've helped me out a lot. So gotta give a shout out to them.
great guys. They're very helpful. Very helpful. I know Mesa is in very good shape coming in with all these other people they are helping. So with that, let's move into the news. We're aiming for because this is a live show and we're trying to keep it to an hour so people can watch it during their lunch tomorrow. The recorded version. We're going to try to get off by 9, let's say 9:20. So we're going to move into news. I'm just going to go first because I have the floor. Might as well. Two things. I already mentioned the BF1 getting really high reviews. I was surprised. And I watched the entire GameSpot review, and they really liked it. So I was surprised about that. Happy about that because I'm a big Battlefield fan. Although I don't think I'll be buying this game. I just it's a time thing. I just don't have the time for two games right now. As a matter of fact, I'm really thinking the next game I'm going to get is probably going to be Forza Horizon 3 if it goes on sale in a few months, because that's another game that I think I could get lost in. But having said that, the last news item I had was that the Xbox has won its third straight month of being the number one console sold in North America, and I don't get it. This trend started before the Xbox One S came out, and I don't get it. What is causing? All right, my assumption is 360 owners are finally upgrading. What is making them upgrade? Are there no more new releases on the 360?
Well, one thing that I think that's making them upgrade it's the second generation of hardware, right? It's the intermediate bump in the hardware on the Xbox One S.
But that doesn't explain the first month. The first month, there weren't that many great sales on the old hardware, but they still beat Sony before the S sold.
I think there was the first sale. It wasn't a great markdown, but I think there was a markdown.
It was like $290, $285.
Yeah, but
You
it
know-
came with the couple game bundles. I mean, I think that
I got my Xbox One S a couple weeks later with 3 games.
There's a lot of good
In a
bundles.
$50. I don't know.
I think it's a perfect storm, right? You've had a few things go on. You had Don Matrick leave, who was pretty much the author of all of the ill will associated with the Xbox One launch. You've had Phil Spencer installed now for enough time for people who were holding onto their 360s to gain confidence that this guy is really about games and really taking the Xbox in a good direction. That it was heading into E3, and there was a lot of buzz about what Xboxers could look forward to. So again, I think it removed a lot of the doubt, and I think it's also that all of us live through the red ring of death, right? So I will admit, I bought my Xbox One I did a saving throw, right? Because part of me was like, I don't want anything to do. Recall that I was off the Xbox platform for 4 years, right? Like, had my third or fourth ring of death in 2010. Got rid of it, bought a gaming PC, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not buying another Xbox this generation. And I played Xbox and PlayStation 3 for 4 years. And when the Xbox One launched and that yokel was in there with all the bad PR, I was like, what tells me that I'm going to buy an Xbox One and I'm not going to deal with another hardware reliability problem? And a lot of me, one of my options was stay off the Xbox One, get to about this point, right, about the 2-3 year point in the console, and then if there hasn't been another RROD scandal, then go with an Xbox One. So it could be a lot of mixtures of those variables.
Now, I got to say, I do love my Xbox One S. It is small. It is portable. I love the portability. Take it to the camping just ended this weekend, was last weekend for us up here. But take it so easy just to put it. I actually put it in the accessory pocket of my laptop bag. I put my laptop in the back pocket, and I put the Xbox One S in the front pocket. And I just leave a HDMI and a power cable up at a $5 power cable in the camper. And it's super, super portable. And I love it. And it is a little bit faster. I do not have the issues I had, the laggy issues I had, which I think somehow are related to the external hard drive with my original Xbox One that I have on this one. Now, I still play my original Xbox One. It still works. I've had to reset it once, which is painful. But could it be Halo 5? Could Halo 5 have started this avalanche? I mean,
Halo
what
5
else happened?
Halo 5 was last year. It was November. It was when Halo 5, end of October, beginning November. Yeah, and you could buy, today on eBay, you could buy the limited edition Halo 5 and Rise and a Kinect game and Sunset Overdrive for $30. So Halo 5, there's a lot of copies out there. You can get it pretty cheap. I would also say, in addition to Zeus's factors, I'm going to throw in the fact that backwards compatibility has continued to expand, and so that Xbox 360 owners who may have been sitting on their hands and waiting, now their collection is still good. They can get a new box, get the new games, but still be able to play their old stuff, because a lot of that there's a commitment to keep moving that over. And I also wonder, and this I would say is probably not a big segment, but I would think it's a significant segment, is for the first 2.5 years of the console's life cycles, PlayStation was beating it on a 2-to-1 basis. And so is it getting to the point now where there's enough exclusives and the price point is under $300 that it becomes somebody's second console?
Well, that and maybe those dynamics just are becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like I'm going to go buy a new console this month. Well, Xbox is winning right now. Like, who cares about the whole generation, right? It's last month Xbox was the number one selling console, and so that's the one I'm going to get. And then the metrics just perpetuate themselves. The other thing I was going to mention, and you kind of alluded to it a bit, DBQ, is no big exclusives for the PlayStation 4 this fall. Except, I guess we're getting the new Shadow of the Colossus, but again, a highly, highly, highly niche game. And in many ways, I proclaim that every Sony exclusive is niche, right? Because the numbers aren't just like platform consuming, like the Xbox is. Like when Gears of War comes out, everybody gets Gears, right? And when a Forza game comes out, almost everybody gets it. So. Yeah, I
it's
think-
really The Last Guardian is the only exclusive.
right.
I mean, it was supposed to bookend, right? It was supposed to end with The Last Guardian, which is going to be an artistic and potentially wonderful game, even if it plays like a 2002 game. And then the other start of Sony's exclusives was supposed to be No Man's Sky, and that didn't go over nearly as well as they had hoped either.
So this, I'm just realizing this, and it's actually pretty awesome. So this is setting up another classic fight between these two consoles, where these companies have made starkly different technical strategic directions, right? So if we go back to Generation 7, the big schism was Sony bet all their money on the Blu-ray HD war, right? And felt that they were going to be the predominant console. And Microsoft at a certain point tried to play that game, but as they went, same thing, as they went to their second drumbeat of console SKUs within Generation 7, so Microsoft dropped the HD player, right? And basically said, look, what our strategy is to not even go to the battlefield where they're fighting this optical disc format war. We're going to be about, and they had started to do all these operating system iterations, and they were like, we're going to be about streaming content. And statistically, when you go back and you would see that, like, the predominant platforms that people would stream Netflix on were becoming the consoles, and Microsoft was like, these optical formats are going to be irrelevant, right? So that was their approach. This fall, Sony doesn't have their exclusives coming out. Their big play is on VR. Microsoft, it seems, has bet, look, at the end of the day, core gamers are about core games. They're not about crazy peripherals, even though we package the Kinect, right? They're not about crazy peripherals. They're about core games. So we're going to drop Gears, and we're going to drop Forza, and we're going to bring Battlefield and Call of Duty. We're going to miniaturize our console and make it look really pretty, right, sitting on your entertainment shelf. I mean, that's the reason I want one. Has very little to do with its 4K UHD capabilities. It just has to do with, kind of like you said, Gray, it's a beautiful looking piece of kit, right? And I want one. And that's the Microsoft play. And so I'm wondering, you know, is this where it starts to tumble down, right? Sony stumbles, right, coming around the last lap on the track. VR doesn't go over well. They miss the drum beat, and people go, I can wait to buy a PlayStation if I don't have one yet, because there's no major exclusives. I can wait until they bring something. I mean, great Scott, where in the world is Gran Turismo? Like, how do you show up at the fight like not bringing Gran Turismo?
That's like the question every year with Sony. Where is GT?
So I just wonder if we'll be looking back, like, you know, at the end of next year, you know, going, you know, that was the point where the tide of war turned.
You know, I don't understand their whole 4K streaming strategy, because my understanding is most households do not have the bandwidth to stream 4K. But I want to move over to the VR discussion you just brought up, which brings in DB's article about the PSVR launch. And I'm going to kick this off by saying, man, it is getting a lot of good press. DB?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is getting a lot of good press. I think the bigger question is it getting good press because it's new and flashy, or is it getting good press because it is going to sustain itself? You know, I think that what I'm hearing again and again, at least in terms of reading articles, and actually I was at a local event, a local game store here, just a used game store, no chain. And somebody had brought in their PSVR and had a chance to kind of watch people play it and talk to people that had played it. And, you know, people described, and it matches up with the press, that as 3 of the 4 of us are sitting here with glasses on, it's the most comfortable VR headset where that it, you know, incorporates glasses, because it tightens from the front and from the side or the back. You know,
the most comfortable VR headset for somebody who wears glasses, but also universally the most comfortable VR headset for anybody ever.
Yes, but still a $399.99 piece of kit that I think is really only in the target space for somebody who already owns a PlayStation 4. So not a unit mover, right, for consoles, right? I mean, people aren't
$700, right? Or it's $800 for somebody, because you're going to have to buy, if you don't own it, you're going to have to buy the Move controllers and the camera. I think
let's be serious. If you're a gamer, it's $900. You're not going to buy the PS Slim. You're going to go Pro.
You're going to wait for the Pro, right? I mean,
I think you have to. When you're looking at $800 or $900, you know that there's going to be better experiences with the $900 kit, right? That the Pro is like double the processing horsepower of the Slim. But look at that. That's the cheapest by half of any VR solution today. Not maybe in a few months, with all the things Oculus is doing to try to get their system to run on the lower specs. But am I wrong? Half price.
No, not half price, right? Because it's $400 and Oculus is $600, right? The Vive is $800.
I think when you really go looking for Oculus in supply, you're still going to be. It's pretty much the same price between it and the Rift.
Yeah.
I mean, it and the Vive.
I mean, they're not identical, but if you're going to get the $500 starter pack and the $400 PlayStation, you're at $900.
Right.
And the HCC and Oculus, they're both fully kitted units, are now $800 with Oculus's new wireless remotes. A little bit more detailed, a little bit more advanced than the PlayStation Moves, right? But I got to say that the computer that go with that $800 set, I don't think you can build it for under $800. Can you?
No.
No. I mean, I think it is. It's the most economical, the most affordable VR option. And truthfully, as somebody who on launch day was looking around to see what sites had them still in stock, I was tempted, because there is this new shiny excitement to it, right? But I think that new shiny excitement wears off, and from what I've been reading, there are some good games out there. There are some good experiences out there, more so than games. And somebody on a podcast I was listening to this weekend, they were talking about how it very much is in an arcade kind of mode. That it's short bursts of experiences. It's not something that is. There isn't that system seller for it yet. Some of the guys I had talked to at the local event where they were playing with the PSVR, they were enjoying the ability of playing your existing PS4 games on kind of a big screen up against your face, just as much as they were enjoying the VR design games.
Yeah, they were enjoying the novelty. I mean, so to me, it's still a risky play, right? Because here's the thing. It's the VR that I think people buy who are only on PlayStation, right? Because if you're VR aware and you know all of the options that you have out there, you know that your highest fidelity experience is on PC, and you also know that is going to scale, and your investment is going to have some longevity. And you're going to have the widest possible library of games to play. Yes, it's very affordable on PS4, but what you don't know is you have the historical doubt. You have the doubt generated by Sony's historical approach to what they visualize and articulate as their generation-winning peripheral, right?
I hear that, but I think on the flip side, you got to look at it as the PS4 Pro is pretty close to a 1060, right?
I would. It's
4.2 teraflops.
Yeah, but I'm going to jump in and say that for the people that are concerned about teraflops, they know what they're going to get. They're
Well,
going
this
to
is-
get a PC. I mean, right? This is for
Well-
the PSVR is for the family. It is for the Christmas buying season. That there's got to be a bundle in there somewhere for somebody who is interested in VR because they saw Palmer Luckey look stupid on Time Magazine last year, and know that it's something that's supposed to be exciting. It's not going to be a premier experience.
Right. So now you just put it in Nintendo Wii space, right? Which makes it even. I mean, maybe it sells in numbers, but then it sells in numbers over a very short duration, right? But so I'm interested in VR. I'm cost conscious, right? I get that it's the cheapest one. I don't know that I'm going to invest my money there because this is a platform where a company just went to E3 and told me every major title that they have coming out is coming out in 2017. And they didn't show me a big core gaming, huge sci-fi flight simulation or driving experience that's going to be grounded in VR. Except, have they said that Gran Turismo definitely has VR?
Not that they
You know,
mentioned.
and even if they did, like right now, I don't even know if Gran Turismo shows up this generation, right? I mean, Polyphony just seems to have just a congressional mandate that they can take however long they want, like to build a game, right? While Turn 10 and the other studio crank out Forza iterations 4 episodes for every one Gran Turismo. So I just, to me, it still feels. I know that there are going to be people who buy it because, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, because that's what they can afford, right? That is their only VR option if they want to get in on VR this generation.
All right, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. I'm going to.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
PSVR predictions, okay, and then we're going to move on. I think there's a lot of people already out there have a PS4, and what big ticket item would they want to get this Christmas? PSVR, and I think PSVR plus the PS4 Pro is half the price of a PC based VR rig, and I will not be surprised if next year at this time PSVR is the leader in sales in VR. That's my gauntlet. I've just thrown it down. DB.
Oh, so I'm going to say that you may be correct, but it's not going to matter. That I think that it's going to sell. It's going to sell okay this holiday season. I think you're going to see a bundle, but I think you're going to see a bundle not with the Pro. Well, maybe you will. You may see a Pro bundle, but I think the Slim bundle and VR sells better because Sony's going to knock more than just $100 off that price point. That I think Zeus hit a spot on the money. That it's trying to be the Wii of VR, but it's at a price point that's prohibitive. I do need to take out a second job to be able to afford it. So I think in terms of the gauntlet, I think it is over the course of this next year the number one selling VR. But I think that VR, without a big system selling game, it becomes a novelty, and it's not a novelty price yet.
So here's my jumping block to your spike, Gray. It's so very much in the same vein. I'm kind of with DB. What I'd also voice, and this is just theory, whatever. By this time next year, let's talk about holiday season 2017. So number one, Sony is not going to upgrade the hardware of the PSVR headset because that would cause a lot of consumer angst and hatred, right? They're going to ride that PS4 headset until the next PS4 console. We have not heard anything about a PS4 bump in this generation beyond the Pro, so we don't know that we're getting an even more powerful full native 4K console that equates to the Scorpio. We really don't know what Sony's doing in that vein, and they haven't said that they're doing anything. But by this time next year, holiday season, Rift, and I'm pretty sure Vive will do the same thing, will be coming out with their second generation VR headsets, which will play on your current or older PC rig hardware, right? So next generation Rift will play on a Core i5, whereas the current generation requires a Core either Core i7 or a very, very, very high-end Core i5. So the rig that I just built, which runs on a on an AMD FX 6000 series processor, which technically isn't on AMD's official list of supported processors, but when you run the Steam VR Ready test, it passes. By next VR generation hardware, that processors down at that end will natively run VR. So I think next holiday season, yes, it may have sold well now because it's the cheapest thing available on the market, but the library will not have significantly expanded. People will firmly be doubting where Sony's going with VR. They're going to feel like it's dependent upon the next more burly generation of PS hardware, which won't yet be quite in sight. And those sales will come to a screeching halt because then PC VR headsets which will be less expensive in the second generation and will run on older PC game hardware. And scene.
Prime?
I don't think there's really much more I can say as far as if it's going to be the leader, if it's going to be stuff like that. But I'm just wondering, what do you guys think of Sony? Does Sony want this to be like? Obviously, they wanted it to be like mass market and everybody buy it. But do you think that's what they intended it for, or if it was just for PS4 owners mostly? Because they got 30 million PS4s out there, or whatever the number is now. I don't even know what it is anymore. Do you think they were just kind of banking on those 30 million plus, trying going out this holiday season to pick one up?
I think it's certainly more marketable to put a TV commercial out for PSVR than it is to try to explain why somebody needs a PS4 Pro. I think that this is something that they're positioning both hardware wise, both market wise. It's something that can be sold well, and I think that the sales will reflect that this holiday season.
I gotta agree. I think you gotta remember, was it Facebook that bought Oculus?
Right. Yep.
I mean, a lot of people are betting on. I'm horrible about predicting the future. I thought the idea of having cameras on phones was silly. So I really think that there's a lot of smart people thinking this is the next gen. And you guys have heard me always talk about how much I'd like to do like an Eve Valkyrie or a space game like a Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen with a headset, or a racing game for that matter. And just reading the Eve Valkyrie review, the VR review of that, where the guy said, I don't think I could play another Starfighter game again without VR. I mean, that's pretty big. That's pretty big to say that, and it was a pretty good review. So that that it all comes down to the killer app, right? Yeah. Will this fizzle like 3D TVs, or
the portables?
Is it going to be the next big thing, or portables? I think portables were killed off by smartphones and tablets, but
I don't know, on the PS4, not PS4, but on the PlayStation side, they had good pieces of hardware for the portables, and it just didn't seem like they supported it with the games, at least as far as I could see. They had some, but not like Nintendo was always bring out really good games like almost all the time for the Game Boy and DS and all that. So, but as far as the VR side, the one commercial I have been seeing lately is the Star Wars VR experience. So they can always ride into that during the holiday season with that. So I think you're just piloting an X-wing, or it's mostly just flying. So they can always jump onto that horse and ride it as much as they can.
Well, we'll see, guys. I'm going to go around the room here and do our final wrap up. It is 9:22, so we'll go alphabetically, starting with Zeus.
Oh, come back to me because I'm trying to remember what it was that I was going to say about VR, and I can't remember right now.
Starting with DB.
All right, so I know we're running late, so I'm not going to say a whole lot, but I think the discussion is good, and it's probably a place where a lot of avid gamers is trying to figure out what direction they go. Is this the time to jump, or do they stick with what they've got? And I think that is both true on the Xbox and PS4 platforms in terms of, is now the time they switch, or is it a VR leap? Or do you just ride out the year and enjoy the games that are coming. And so maybe that's what we'll talk about in another week is, are there enough games to even consider riding it out? Or as Zeus alluded to, is he just going to go back and play his existing games?
Yeah, and we actually had a number of things we wanted to talk about we didn't get to today, so we'll just hold that all over for next week. And maybe skip the news if we don't have any crushing news that comes up that has to be discussed. Prime, let's hear it. What's your wrap up?
I was gonna kind of go on that note, but since we're gonna wait until next week, yeah, I mean, if I had a PS4, honestly, I'd probably jump on the VR, because it looks. I've been always kind of cool, interested with that kind of the gadgets and the motion control and the VR and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it does good, so that'll breed competition. Obviously, Microsoft might jump on there either if they're gonna do partnership with Oculus or bring out. Obviously, they have the HoloLens. That's a little different than normal VR, but maybe they'll get their own VR going, or like I said, just partner with Oculus and everything else that's coming out. Hopefully, it all goes well, and we see some cool stuff next year. Probably not this year so much, but hopefully, within the coming year, we'll start to see some cool things coming out, experiences, and not just games, but other kind of experiences and stuff like that. So, Zeus.
Yeah, my last thing I was going to mention in the VR thing was the other thing that is a bit limiting about the PlayStation VR is that it's locked to the PlayStation platform, right? Rift and Vive, you play it on a PC. The PC doesn't really care which headset it is. Some of the games are compatible with one or the other, but if it's a Steam game that's VR compatible, it's VR compatible, right? And there's going to be absolutely no notion of a VR experience on the PC, or that's not women. Yes, there's basically no possibility, or a far-fetched possibility, of there ever being any type of PC to PS4 crossplay in a VR environment. That possibility exists for Xbox One and PC, further expanding just the player base that you might have access to for a VR multiplayer experience. And the last thing I'll mention is probably the people who are hyper VR aware are also people who are into streaming, right? And I don't know that there's a technology solution coming to PS4 anytime soon that's going to allow you to get that VR video as a capturable output from the PSVR. But
now you get it as an HDMI output. Is that HDMI output protected? I don't think it is.
I don't know. Is it just an HDMI output, or is it a combination of HDMI plus USB, something coming out over USB?
I think that box, and I don't have one, but from what I read, the external box gives you an HDMI out to the TV, so people can watch what you're doing. So that might work for streamers.
You're right. I stand corrected then.
But no, still very, very good points. Guys, I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank you, our viewers and our listeners, for coming out. If you want to get in contact with us, podcast at bandofgamers.net. You can visit our website, bandofgamers.net. You can comment here on the video on YouTube. And we're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're all over the place. So just let us know what you're thinking. Tell us how much we're wrong. All right. Or just tell us, like Lance tells me all the time, how much you like the Patriots now that they're 5-1. Lance is going to kill me next time I see him. But in any case, until next time, on behalf of DBQ Hams, Osiris Prime, Zeus Adamus, and myself, Greylock 3491, I want to thank you again for watching and listening. And until next time, peace.